Chapter 1, 142, 7th year, hospital visits. She loved tulips, she loved daisies, she loved forget-me-nots and gerberas and roses and daffodils. She loved every flower he brought her. He always tried to bring something. Flowers were free, as long as he kept Madam Sprout on side, and Hope hadn't much appetite, so chocolate was no good. They had 5 more meetings over the spring of 1978, and Remus would forever mark each of them by the flowers he'd brought to her. The conversations they had too, of course, but the flowers seemed to bookend everything, colouring each session with its own personality. Tulips had presided over their second meeting. They were orange, pink, and yellow, with sturdy, dusky green stems and sumptuous velvet petals. A very generous flower, Remus thought. She was ready for him this time. She'd had her hair washed and combed, and it gleamed sunny platinum blonde against the pink hospital blankets. She'd put a spot of makeup on too, though Remus felt bad for noticing that, because he felt he ought not to care how she looked.
I got my sister to dig out some pictures,
Hope said eagerly, tapping a brown paper envelope on her bedside as Remus set down the weird vase he'd drunkenly transfigured.
What are they pictures of?
He asked cautiously, pulling up a seat beside her. He didn't want to be caught unawares by anything too painful.
Some of you as a baby.
She smiled with shiny coral lips.
Some of me and your father.
Lyall.
Remus said quickly.
Me and Lyall.
She corrected herself out of politeness. Hope would bend over backwards to save Remus even the smallest upset. That much was clear from the beginning. He found it unsettling. Very few people had ever cared about his feelings so intensely before. He picked up the envelope and held it for a moment.
You don't have to look. We can do it another time,
Hope said, a tremor of fear in her voice. He didn't want to frighten her. He wanted to tell her not to worry, that he wasn't going to run away or disappear forever, that he wanted to be there and get to know her. But that was all too much, so he just opened the package and smiled.
No, I want to see.
Fortunately, there weren't very many, but he was surprised to find that more than half of the photographs were magical, and the images moved in his hands like film reels.
I've had to keep them hidden.
Hope confided.
Lyall never liked the usual sort of photography. He said they were too flat.
How old is he in this one?
Remus held up a photograph of both of his parents, standing in someone's back garden. Lyall was wearing a muggle suit, and they were both squinting against the sunshine, but smiling. He had his arm around Hope's waist.
Oh, I think we'd only met a few weeks before that was taken,
Hope said, taking it from him to look closer.
He'd have been 30, I think.
Remus looked at it again. He knew he looked like Lyall. He'd been told so a few times, and to some extent he agreed. They were both gangly, tall and skinny with bad posture. But Lyall looked more at ease than Remus had ever felt in his overlong body. His movements in the photograph were confident and self-assured. She let him take the pictures back to school, and he tentatively showed his friends. Over his 7 years at Hogwarts, he had been shown a lot of family photos. Peter and James kept pictures in frames on their bedside, or else tacked up on the walls over their dressers. Lily had an album that she flipped through when she was homesick, and Mary had a shoebox full of holiday snaps, Christmases, postcards, and pictures of her cousins in Jamaica. So it was a surprisingly nice experience, Remus thought, being able to share his own modest collection.
That's them,
he said shyly as they sat around the fireplace.
They're my parents.
Remus, you look just like your dad.
Lily said, meaning to be kind.
Wow, look at your mum's hair.
Mary grinned.
What a glamour puss.
Ah,
James snatched another picture, waving it at everyone.
look at little baby Mooney.
It was silly, Remus knew, but he even felt the beginnings of pride, sharing his family like that. Proof that he'd been normal, once. Just like his friends. This is who I am. This is who I came from. One afternoon, he even returned to the Ravenclaw corridor to see the duelling trophy with Lyall's name on it. It was the same as ever, but no longer gave him that mysterious ache of longing as it had in second year. Christopher and Marlene walked past while he was looking at it.
Oh, Lupin.
Christopher said, surprised, peering into the case to read the trophy.
Is that your dad? Cool.
Thanks.
Remus put his hands in his pockets, suddenly bashful. Marlene touched his shoulder in a friendly, comforting way. He smiled at her, gratefully.
I met my mum recently.
Remus explained to Christopher.
And it just had me thinking.
You met your mum? I thought your parents were dead.
Christopher scratched his head. Honestly, if it wasn't written down in a book, then he could be incredibly dense about some things.
Just Lyall.
Remus said calmly, nodding at the trophy.
So, if your mum's okay, why did you live in a home?
Shut up, Chris.
Marlene said, tutting. She slipped her arm through Remus's, linking them together.
Come on, love, it's dinner soon.
She began to lead him away.
I didn't mean to be rude,
Christopher said, hurrying along behind them.
It's okay.
Remus reassured him, doing some quick thinking.
My mum's in the hospital. She's not been well enough to look after me.
It was only half a lie.
What was he like?
Remus asked Hope next time he saw her. A pot of geraniums this time, bright red and gaudy, with lovely wide leaves like Chinese fans.
Lyall?
She asked. He nodded, braced for impact.
He was the cleverest man I ever met.
Hope said, decisively.
I never understood half the things he said, but I loved to listen, and he loved to talk.
Sounds a bit arrogant,
Remus said uncomfortably. Hope laughed.
Oh, he was arrogant, all right. He knew it too, always had to be right, had to have the last word. We fought like cat and dog over it sometimes.
She saw Remus's look of dismay and hurried to clarify.
I loved him for it, though. I loved how sure he was, how reliable. He never let me down.
Yes, he did, Remus thought bitterly. She was forgetful about things like that. Perhaps it was her illness, or just a side effect of a shortened life. She was relentlessly optimistic, unable to find fault in the people she loved. She told him how they'd met, like it was a fairy tale.
I was walking home from work one afternoon. I was an operator at the telephone exchange back then. I took a shortcut, same one I always did, from the main bus stop in town, through a little bit of woodland. Then, from out of nowhere, this man came and attacked me. A vagrant, I thought, or an escaped prisoner. I screamed, and it was Lyall who saved me. Well, I loved him the moment he held me in his arms. He was a hero. Of course, he told me later it had only been a boggart. But it was still very brave, wasn't it?
Remus nodded absently.
I've met some people who knew him.
He said,
They've told me he had a bad temper.
What? No.
She frowned.
He got it up sometimes, don't we all? But he was always kind and always gentle with us. He hated violence.
Right.
Remus nodded. He never knew what to think about Lyall. Nothing about him ever felt real, because nothing Remus ever learnt could wipe away what he'd done. Conversations with Hope weren't always difficult. Often, they were very pleasant. They talked about small, inconsequential things, likes and dislikes, favourite foods, favourite films or songs. She loved the Beatles and Fairport Convention, and most of all, she liked Simon and Garfunkel. She liked sad songs. She hummed along to The Only Living Boy in New York when it came on the record player, but America was her favourite because it made her cry. I'm empty and aching, and I don't know why. Sometimes she was very unwell, and she dozed, wavering in and out of consciousness. He just sat by and read his book until it was time to go. She even asked him to read to her once or twice.
I don't care what it's about, I just like your voice.
She would smile under heavy eyelids. He liked those times. He really felt like they belonged to each other then.
Have you asked her why yet?
Sirius asked him one evening when he'd returned from a day at the hospital.
Asked her why what?
Remus yawned, stretching out and placing his feet in Sirius's lap. He thought they could get away with that. It wasn't too intimate, and the common room was relatively quiet.
You know, why she never got in touch.
Remus frowned. He leaned his head back on the arm of the settee and stared up at the ceiling.
No,
he said.
I don't see the point asking.
I'd want to know.
Sirius replied, fiddling with Remus's bootlaces.
Well,
Remus replied coldly.
That's you.
Okay.
Sirius replied.
Sorry.
Remus felt a twinge of guilt. Sirius had been extremely sensitive about bringing up Hope, letting Remus take the lead when it came to discussing it, so it wasn't fair to snap. In truth, he was terrified. He wanted very much to know exactly what Hope had been doing with herself for 13 years, but he knew that there was no answer that would satisfy him. The other children that had been mentioned by the nurse on his first visit were never brought up, and she didn't wear a wedding ring. There were no other photographs around her hospital bed, and no sign that anyone else was visiting. And Remus was selfish. He liked having Hope all to himself, pretending there was no one else in the world. It was the only way they could communicate for now, he decided, to shut out all the noise of other people and just be themselves together.
That's a big book.
She smiled, waking up halfway through another visit. Daisies that time, big, cheerful, friendly flowers.
What's it about?
History revision.
He explained, closing it carefully. Now she was awake.
I've got my final exams coming up.
Clever boy.
She murmured, her eyelids fluttering.
What's your best subject?
History, I suppose.
He replied,
But I'm good at charms, and I like care of magical creatures a lot.
Just like your dad.
She smiled, eyes closing. Her face was very pale that day, and he didn't try to correct her. She was obviously exhausted.
Maybe you'll save a pretty girl from a boggart one day.
She chuckled quietly.
Yeah, maybe.
He replied. Then, because he felt bad about lying.
I like Transfiguration too, but my friend Sirius is the best in the class. He can turn himself into a dog and everything.
She smiled.
Sirius is a nice name.
Yeah, Sirius Black.
Remus said. He was glad her eyes were closed. It made things easier.
He's my best friend. I mean, I have a lot of friends, but he's the most. We're probably going to live together after school finishes.
That'll be nice.
She fell asleep again. Remus fidgeted for a bit, feeling anxious, then returned to his revision. He woke her up just before he had to leave, though.
See you next week?
She clasped his hand with surprising strength.
No, sorry.
He shook his head.
Next Friday is a full moon, so I won't be able to travel on Saturday.
Full moon.
She murmured, taking a few seconds to understand. When the fog cleared, she had a sharp look of panic, which Remus couldn't bear.
Maybe I can come on Sunday, though. I'll see.
He bent down and kissed her cheek, very lightly. She began to cry, and he had to go. He was halfway across the ward when he heard her mutter, very quietly.
Damn you, Lyall Lupin, you bastard.